One of the biggest names in offshore racing, Reggie Fountain, puts this town back on the map. Makes a little history himself as the stars of the APBA come calling for the inaugural running of the Fountain Mercury Offshore Race. It's the APBA BAJA Offshore Series. Today we come to you from the Pamlico River in Washington, North Carolina for the Fountain Mercury Offshore Race. Washington, North Carolina, the home of Fountain powerboats, one of the world's largest manufacturers of V-bottoms. And there's nothing faster than the Super Vs when it comes to V-bottom hulls. And this boat, the V76, the Pier 57 Fountain, went out earlier in the week and set a new world speed record. This event offers a chance to set world kilo speed marks in their particular classes. Now, here's how it works. Teams get 2 chances along a marked kilometer course. Times from each pass are averaged to establish a new record, and that's exactly what the Art Lilly and Jeff Harris team did. Establish a new milestone by topping 140 miles per hour. They're riding a 3-race win streak and sit atop the Super V point standings, and at least for now, they've wrested the medal. World's fastest V-bottom away from the Ocean Spray Fountain. What does Bruce Penhall think of that?
Oh, now wait a second. We're a little too premature on that. Yeah, the V1 Ocean Spray Fountain is working real well. You know, we've had a little bad luck, but you know, you got to give Art and Jeff and the V76 Fountain a lot of credit. You know, they're flying right now, and they're just going real well. We have a little work to do. We're behind in points. You know, this is the backyard of Fountain. We're both out here to prove a point. We intend fully on setting a pace here, as we did in the last race in Baltimore. Unfortunately, we had a little bad luck there as well, but we think we have some speed on them still, and I think we can do it.
3 DNFs this season have hurt this team. Now we'll see if they can right their ship beginning today. Let's check in with Rich Lors for the story in Modifieds.
Dick, in Modified, the Pepsi 1 Prolong team is here. The last time we saw them in Sarasota in that rain-shortened shootout, they drove away and never looked back. They'll try to duplicate that victory here on the Pamlico River. The big story in Modified, however, comes from the kilos the other day, where it was not the best of days for Cat Can Do.
Barry Glovick and Keith Holmes were ever so close to setting a new kilo modified mark. They decided to pull out all the stops and go for it, but unfortunately, it was not the mark of 134.7 miles an hour that was broken, it was the boat. And as we see here, the boat rose off the waters of the Pamlico, took off like a 747, crashed back down, and basically in an obliterating crash ended their dreams of a world record. Fortunately, they were basically unhurt, but what happened? Well, this is essentially a tunnel boat. It rides on a cushion of air. There's a point at which you are beyond the point of no return. The boat is airborne, aimed at beyond a critical angle. It picks up too much air under the bow and takes off as an airplane would when it rotates off a runway. Unfortunately, unlike an airplane, it doesn't know what to do with itself once it's up there.
And I think it points out the aerodynamics that we're fooling with now with these big boats at these very high speeds. They are becoming like airplane wings, especially in the tunnel class. Keith Holmes, we're glad to say, suffered only minor leg abrasions. Barry Glovick banged up his elbow and forearm.
Keith and I decided at the last minute we'd pull all the stops out and we'd run it just as hard as we could, and we were confident we could nail down the kilo record with the boat. And I mean, certainly we were running the boat light. There wasn't much in the water other than the props, and I don't know if we caught a little gust of wind or I know we snagged some crab pots, you know, that we drug in with us. I don't know what affected it. The boat just caught large air, and I mean, as soon as I felt it lift, I pulled out immediately, but the angle of the boat was changing so rapidly that it was catching more and more air, and we waited for it to settle back down, and it never happened. It just accelerated and accelerated and accelerated. It really surprised us. I mean, we didn't think the boat. We've run it on the edge, but this was pretty unexpected for us.
Now for the real unexpected. With damage like this, most would just pack it in and move on to the next race. But this team decides they're going to go racing. And they went to work to go after some national points by making at least the start in the modifieds. Here you can see him putting on some tape, and then they covered it all with shrink wrap, and they were working on this thing literally for 24 hours or so to get it ready to get back into the water, and look what happened.
A remanufactured pickle fork, as a matter of fact, a remanufactured boat, and everything was wrong. The engines had taken a considerable beating, as you can well imagine, and even up to the last minute before the race, they were working on one of them to try to get it started for the race.
All right, let's take a look at our modified lineup. Well, they finished up there. It's an interesting story with out of bands. Lance Lanciano is not here. His wife is having a baby. Tom Stagliano, who has a lot of experience in a skater, comes over from Citre to drive the boat. Doug Lewis, who drove the boat to a win in Baltimore, will now throttle it. Reggie Fountain, of course, another big story today. Now, you don't think he'd put on a race without running it. Reggie comes out of retirement and teams up with Jerry Gilbreth, one of the best throttlemen in the business, for this, his first APBA race of the year.
I'm retired long enough to run this race, and I feel good about that because, as you know, we set the world speed record on Friday at 165 with Jerry Gilbreth in there, and with Jerry and I felt pretty comfortable, and looking forward to the race today.
Not to be outdone, Drambule on ice also went out and set a new world kilo speed record in the USA 1 class at 161.513 miles per hour. Drambule on ice, naturally aspirated, Fountain is supercharged, but the USA record is more widely recognized by the APBA.
We set quite a record ourselves in our open class boat of 161 miles an hour, so we're very proud of that effort, and it's going to be quite a race. We're outgunned significantly on horsepower, but hopefully we can make it up on this course and have a good result.
And this course is a very simple one on the narrow confines of the Pamlico River, very calm water, a simple cigar-shaped course, very spectator-friendly. As you can see, the shores are quite close on both sides. Fast straightaways, tight turns, a great setting for racing here in North Carolina.
We've already showed you the lineup for the modifieds. Let's jump to Factory 3 and then to Pro Stock. You've got good competition in this Pro Stock lineup, no question about that. This is going to be great water, and they're going to have to watch their speed. They can really blow their engines if they keep that throttle wide open all the way. Here you see the approach to the start line. Drambuie on ice is the boat that set the record the other day, and he's ready to get on those throttles again, and that's the boat closest to you.
And Dick Cat Can Do is out there. We don't see him in the picture. They are struggling to make the start. They've got the boat on plane. They're trying to catch up, and there's the start of the race. Now let's see who's got the speed. Reggie Fountain, well, he owns the waterways down here, and oh my goodness, he's taking full advantage of his knowledge as he pulls away from the Drambuie on ice. You see supercharged power against naturally aspirated power, and of course those superchargers have all of that compression in those engines to make additional horsepower when they need it.
And look how calm the water is. Now, it won't stay that way because as these boats go around and do their laps, the water's going to roughen up a little bit. But right now, Reggie Fountain sitting on top of the water with those supercharged engines, really taking advantage of it and getting out ahead of the field. Drambuie on ice is now running in second place. Those are two of the fastest boats in the world, and here's the fastest modified boat around, and this boat out of bounds is just watching that show out in front of him at the moment.
260-mile-an-hour boats, and all out of bounds can do is watch. And now the combined Pro Stock and Factory 3 start. Now these are boats that are basically stock engines on tunnel boats of approximately 30 to 35 feet in length. Two of them have stern drive power. The rest have triple outboard power. All of these boats are capable of speeds over 110 miles an hour. And in these calm seas, we're going to see some super stunts out of these cats. And there's your start.
And right off the bat, we've got a battle in the Pro Stock. We've got Crime Buster and the Hooters boat out of Fort Myers, Florida. Both of them breaking for the lead in the pack, and it's nose to nose. This shows you how evenly matched these boats are in speed, especially in waters like this.
Every race, it seems, these two boats get together. They get about 2 boat lengths apart, and then it's on to the battles because these guys don't ever give up. They've got virtually identical performance. And it seems like race after race, they just watch each other. They've studied each other to the point now they've got to be bored. But look at the Factory 3 boat on the inside of the course. Now, that's stock 500 HP Mercruiser power. These boats were not supposed to break 100 miles an hour this year. They're now in the teens, way above the envelope anticipated for this class. And that boat is just cruising on by the outboards in calm water.
And that's the Team Yahoo, the F305. And look at him go. Crime Buster is the boat nearest to you to the right of your screen. Now you're closing in on Jim Haimes and crew as the P10 still holds the lead in the Pro Stocks, but the F3 boat has left them in the wake.
Not only left them in his wake, he's also left his competitor in Factory 3 class, the Team Motion Cat. And also leaving the entire fleet in his wake is Reggie Fountain. Jerry Gilbreath's got the Fountain Mercury 76 humming in the Fountain Mercury race. This boat went 165 miles an hour yesterday. Today, it's going darn near as fast in the race.
And take a look at Cat Can Do with that brand new shrink wrap nose. The shrink wrap is basically holding. You can see a little bit of it tearing down below the title of the boat, Cat Can Do. It's just kind of blowing in the wind.
Ah, the magic of plastics. And meanwhile, the magic of Pepsi Prolong as Joey Padovano and Charlie Haimes are flying along in the modified class, struggling for the lead right now.
APBA Baja Offshore Racing is brought to you by Baja. Baja, speed changes you. Washington, North Carolina. The Fountain Mercury Offshore Race, part of the APBA Baja Offshore Series, and we have got great racing with two of the world's fastest boats. In the lead is the Fountain boat hometown entry.
In front of his home crowd, Reggie Fountain is strutting his stuff. 160+ miles an hour, and he's holding off the Drambue team. Drambue, naturally aspirated, still hanging in there, but out of bounds, not having such good luck. Out of bounds is down in the water, down in power, and probably out of the race.
We should tell you that that is a leased boat. In other words, they damaged the original boat they had, so they leased this one with a name on it to keep the points going, but they at the same time had a team in there that doesn't normally drive the boat. Meanwhile, Pepsi Prolong has no problem whatsoever. Engines are working perfectly. They're skimming across the water. Joey Padovano and Charlie Haimes having a great race, and they take the lead.
Meanwhile, back in the Pro Stock, the Hooters is still waging a war with Crime Buster. And you can see the Crime Buster rooster tail. Hooters is nestled in right there in second place, trying to make a move now on the inside, coming into the eastern turn on the race course. Now, Hooters has to get up next to Crime Buster, has to establish position, and they're doing just that going into the turn. They took advantage of Crime Buster backing off of the turn and just charged in. Nice move by the Hooters team.
It certainly was, and if you have a boat that can ride those buoys on the inside lane and you don't have a boat that'll slip out on you, you can take advantage of it and keep your speed up. In this case, Jim Haimes on the outside. You could see him back off going into the turn. All of a sudden, Hooters shoots forward. Hooters gets the lead, and they're holding it coming out of the turn.
If Jim Haimes could do that turn over again, he would have hugged that entrance pin. He made a tactical error there, and I'll bet you he's very frustrated right now because, as you can see, these two boats have virtually identical speed, so any little error, any little opportunity is going to mean the difference between first and second place at the finish line. And right now, Crime Buster has to find another opening so he can get back in first place.
But he is forced to stay on the outside now. There's nowhere to go on getting to the inside groove. And you can see Hooters holding on to it. Steve Page, he is going to hold right in there. Joey Gratton is his throttleman now. Fountain boat looks like he may not be going quite as fast as he was a little earlier.
Now, something's gone wrong in the engine compartment in that boat. They're down about 25 miles an hour and continuing to drop down. You can see the boat actually dipping to one side. His power's going off and on the starboard side. The boat is now porpoising a little bit. She's dropping way off speed now, literally dropping off plane. The Fountain Mercury's out of this race.
Drambuie on ice. The Drambuie Extreme team is coming up very fast on him. It doesn't look like, there he goes. Drambuie on ice has taken over the lead. It looks like that may have been a case of having those engines wide open on a smooth course.
No mercy from the Drambuie Extreme team, and no mercy from this team right here. Team Motion now in the lead in the Factory 3 class. As you recall, their competitor, F305 Team Yahoo, took off like a scalded rabbit at the start, had an awful lot of speed, but Team Yahoo has dropped out of the race, leaving the race to this one, Team Motion. And here's the Team Yahoo. These guys are frustrated right now. They had tremendous speed on a very fast course, and look what they've got now.
Yeah, no speed at all, and this is the longest ride for any race driver and crew, for sure.
Back in the Pro Stock, you can see Crime Buster is where you don't want to be. Right here, clearly, you can see that the radius for the boat in the rear, the Crime Buster, is greater than the lead boat, the Hooters. He has to stay outside of the wake of the Hooters. Hooters right now has him on his hip and is taking him to the Toolies. Hooters is taking a very wide exit off this turn, really expanding the turn for that Crime Buster boat.
Drambuie on ice, no problem at all. They set the world speed record the other day for this type of boat, and they are looking every bit world class today. But oh, look at this. Pepsi won Prolong, losing power. Joey Padovano and Charlie Haimes, they have lost the rooster tail off the back of the boat. They have slowed down. boy, I'm telling you, all the bad luck in the world to them, but look at this boat, the boat that had all the bad luck, Cat Can Do.
Cat Can Do. They had the weekend of weekends. Here they thought they were lucky to be alive the other day, and they've just inherited the lead in modified class with a patched-together boat, no engine hatches. It's barely able to make the race this morning, and they're leading this race. There's no reason, no earthly reason, why Cat Can Do should be anywhere but on the trailer and not in first place in a race here on a Sunday afternoon.
But talk about a race. Look what's happened here. On the turn, Crimebuster has come up on the outside and taken Hooters. Crimebuster is now leading in the Pro Stocks.
They drove around Hooters. Hooters got into some traffic there going into the turn. Crimebuster took advantage of one of those little openings we talked about, and now Crimebuster inherits the lead.
What a great race we have in Pro Stocks. Meanwhile, attrition is taking its toll around the course. We'll be back with more racing. Stay with us.
Including Reggie Fountain.
And we were cruising, I mean, we weren't even near on it, and that boat was running like 155, 60 down the straightaways at maybe 85%. And we had a little electrical problem in there, and it knocked the whole thing out. Little things can cause big problems.
Charlie, you knew going out you had an engine problem.
Yeah, Dick, we heard an engine yesterday, and Bud LaRoe with Hawk Power, he fixed the motors up for us last night. He worked all night fixing them and got us a good start, and unfortunately we lost it a few laps in, and it's racing, I guess. But hey, we're happy to be here in Washington, North Carolina, and we'll come back next year and hopefully turn it around.
Running down the first straightaway, the boat was running really well, the out of bounds #1 boat, and I think something let go in the starboard motor. We're not quite sure yet, but we had put some time on these motors with the testing of all our new drivers, and I think it finally caught up with us.
Now something's caught up with the Hooters boat as they too are out of the race. Boy, this entire race is just about boats breaking down today, Dick.
Well, I think we kind of expected it with the smooth waters. The temptation is to hold that throttle wide open, and sometimes it'll burn those engines down. Critical Lift now in second place in Pro Stock. They don't look like they're having any problem at all.
This is a neat riding boat in calm water. You can see Critical Lift Racing. They're riding around like in a limousine out there. Also riding very good, the Crimebuster. Crimebuster now has a substantial lead in the Pro Stock class. Their chief competition, Hooters, went out, and Jim and Tad Haimes, well, they're coming down to the finish. They will win here in the Pro Stock today.
Well, they've had a great race, and they certainly earned that checkered flag. No question about it, going around the turn on the outside to take the lead. And your leader and winner, the Cat Can Do in the modified class, Keith Holmes and Barry Glovick. They went over, getting the boat airborne, putting it over on its back just a couple of days ago, and here they are winning the race, shrink wrap and all.
An amazing job by two champions. And our results now show Cat Can Do, the leader, Pepsi 1 Prolong, and Out of Bounds in third place. Crimebuster, of course, took the win over Oakdale Farms and Critical Lift. Team Motion took the lead over a very quick Team Yahoo Racing. And this cat seemingly had 9 lives here in Washington, North Carolina. A remarkable feat, coming back from a violent blowover just 2 days earlier to take their 3rd win of the season.
We're very fortunate today. If it wasn't for Fountain and all their help and all their people and all the guys that pitched in from all the other teams, we wouldn't have been able to do it, which is just fortunate.
Barry, when did it hit you that you were the only ones left?
Well, you know, the odds seemed impossible from the onset. People asked, when are you going to run this boat again? And we said, oh, maybe 30, 60 days if we work real hard. And then we got to thinking, well, the motors both turn over, maybe we can do this. And we worked day and night since Friday, of course, and of course, we were fortunate enough to be in good enough shape to do that after Friday's incident, you know. So we got stitched up, and then we stitched the boat up and went out and did our job. It was incredible.
Well, Keith, going out there with that shrink wrap on the end of the nose, did you have great confidence in it?
Well, we watched the gals and guys put it together here at Fountain, and they did a heck of a good job putting the plywood and the 2x4s to it and the shrink wrap tape, and then shrink wrapped it. I mean, they bandaged it up real nice, I'll tell you.
Fixed ply.
I'm not going to enjoy taking it off.
Well, you're going to have to take some ink off of your knees, too. What were you doing?
Well, we didn't go out planning on doing many laps, so then I had to count laps with a marker I had in my pocket. And on the other side, I was counting how many times we were lapping the competition, so it was just fortunate it went that way.
It was a blast, this race. The water was our kind of water, you know, it was fairly calm. And we like drag races. And we had the boat set up for the kilo the other day, and that didn't do too well for us, but we were set up for the race.
And that win meant a lot for Cat Can Do. The CK Motorsports is now within 6 points of the M1 out of bounds. Well, we can see the Factory 2 boats heading out along with the Super Vs. We'll have more action for you when we return.
Cat Can Do bounce back from this position all the way to the winner's circle, believe it or not. But of course, being upside down in an enclosed cockpit is an extremely scary and dangerous situation. That's the subject of today's Safety Spotlight, hosted by John Tomlinson.
The Drambule on Ice Extreme team has the most advanced canopy system in the world. Its primary purpose is to protect Force and I in the event of an accident. But this very same protective shell can also make it difficult to escape if we land upside down in the water. Here on the Drambule on Ice Extreme team, we have a complete survival system built into our race operation. The first item at our disposal is oxygen. We wear oxygen masks inside the Drambule cockpit. We also have an emergency lighting system because it's pretty dark when the boat's upside down in the water. But the most important thing we do is training. We have a set routine that involves removing our safety harnesses and equipment and swimming to the surface. We practice these escapes using the APBA's Dunker test, which is done in a controlled pool with divers. We'll have more on the APBA Dunker test in our next Safety Spotlight. Our message today is take every measure of precaution available when boating. Safety is one thing we never take for granted on the Drambule on Ice Extreme team. We hope you feel the same way.
And this reminder from the Drambule on Ice Extreme team, boating and drinking never mix. When the race ends, that's when the celebration begins.
Super V today includes the 2 fastest V-bottoms in the world, the Ocean Spray Fountain and the V76 Fountain. A large Factory 2 lineup includes the Twisted Styx, which had a bit of a problem this week. They had a real mess, and it's a sign of just how competitive things are in Factory 2. The F238 Twisted Styx rolled during a practice session while they were working on their turns, as Navigator Theresa Ostrander explains.
It's been a little bit of a weakness of ours this season, but we've been improving through the season. This was going to be a very busy short race course with a lot of turns in it. We were concerned about being able to turn extremely efficiently and keep ahead of the other boats. Obviously, we were fortunate that we found out what the limitations were for pushing the boat before there were 19 other F2 boats on our tail.
They were very fortunate. Here's an onboard look at some of the F2 boats, the onboard of F213 Renegade. These are supplied by Yanmar Diesel, the official diesel engine. Here's the Treadwell Motorsports. And we jump over to the Citgo Superguard Scarab. You saw 2 men teams. Now you see one with 3 men on board. Here comes the start of the Super V.
Super V, V76 Fountain, and V1 Ocean Spray. They had a duel earlier this weekend for the world record, and V76 won that one. Let's see if V76 can carry that speed onto the race course. Watch the Citgo, too, the boat closest to you. Another very quick boat came all the way from California to this North Carolina event. Now the flag drops, and here's your start. There's a lot of horsepower in there. They're all supercharged. They all carry about 1,300 horsepower per engine, or 2,600 across. And look at the Ocean Spray. They're using their 2,600 horsepower. They've got something to prove. They just lost their mantle as the official world's fastest V-bottom, but that doesn't mean anything out here in today's race.
We heard Bruce Penhall say, hey, don't get too far ahead here because we've got a lot left. There we go on board the Citgo Superguard. It's amazing to watch these guys bounce around as much as they are in this smooth water, because normally we see them bouncing around and it's pretty rough. But they're getting a good ride on that boat. There goes the V76 pulling by Jeff Harris and Art Lilly. They're in second place right now in the Super Vs.
And that is a world-class team in there. Jeff Harris works right here at Fountain Powerboats. Art Lilly, well, what can you say? He's had national championships in cats, V-bottoms, you name it, he's throttled it.
We jump back to the F2s. We're starting them in waves today, and this is going to be the start of the F2s. The boat in front of the pack, way, way off in the distance, is actually the pace boat with the yellow flag up. When they switch flags to green, that means the boats are off and running, and all of a sudden you'll see them start to jump forward. This is a great even class. It has been growing with every race. They've done a terrific job of putting this together. There they go, and look at them start leaping out in front.
There's your start. We talked about inches being everything in pro stock. Well, that's nothing compared to what happens in Factory 2. Everybody has HP 500 power in box stock production boats. The Sutphen took advantage of having a little more throttle. When the flag went down, you see Sutphen going to the lead.
This is on board the Treadwell Motorsports. You can see the difference from the camera we had on board earlier when they were just riding out in a pleasure ride. Now they're working at it, but see how steady the guy's hand was on the throttle.
Very steady. In these calm waters, you just want full throttle. There's no trick here today. No strategy beyond as fast as you can go for as long as you can go. Look at VELOCIRAPTOR. He likes this water. That boat is really quick in calm water. He's got a pad bottom on that boat, a flat spot at the bottom of the V. She's up on the pad in the flat calm water, taking full advantage of the boat design.
Oh, somebody got a face full of water there. That's the F213 Renegade. You see the guys aren't disturbed by it at all. They've got their face masks on and all, but still and all, it takes you by surprise when that water comes flying up into your face. Look at this battle.
Oh, yeah, VELOCIRAPTOR on the inside. Sutphin gave him a lane. That was a professional move there. As a matter of fact, Sutphin's giving him too much of a lane. Brian Kirby making a big mistake there. VELOCIRAPTOR has a much shorter way around, and VELOCIRAPTOR's going to take the lead coming out of this turn. Look at the rest of the fleet. We wondered where the water came from in that previous shot. Well, there are so many rooster tails out there. The boats are so tightly bunched, and they all have the same speed capability.
We transfer now over to the Super Vs, and Ocean Spray is still holding off the V76. Boy, that is a battle, and look how tight Jeff Harris and Art Lilly are on the wake, being thrown by the lead boat in their class.
That's what you have to do. Stay in tight to the wake of the boat in front of you. Like predators, the V76 Fountain, Art Lilly and Jeff Harris, they want the lead.
It's great racing, and we're far from finished here in Washington, North Carolina. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Over 250,000 square feet right here on the Pamlico River in Washington, North Carolina. At the Fountain Factory, you'll find everything you'd ever need to build, test, and maintain power boats. The Fountain plant staffs some 370 employees. Build it all right here. From pleasure boats to racing machines. Quite simply, it's the largest high-performance powerboat manufacturer in the world. Back on the course on the Pamlico River and more Factory 2 racing. Let's run through the field. 6th place, the F237 Wild Child. To 4th place, F221 Snapperhead. To 3rd place, F271 Mastery Fountain. And the competition up front has not let off one iota. Sutphin and VELOCIRAPTOR are still going at it.
Look at VELOCIRAPTOR sitting up on his pad. Sutphin is countered by trimming all the way up. He's riding on the very back of his V. And here is the Twisted Styx back from the bottom of the river to 9th place.
Well, they really have got themselves a ride here, and that's got to be something after you've gone over in the boats. You got to get that confidence back. Always a strong competitor in the Super Vs, the V21 with Jay Johnson, Nigel Hook, and Tony Wiese aboard that boat, a 3-man crew. They look like they're losing some power down there. As a matter of fact, they definitely have lost power. As we look back in, they're kind of looking around a little bit, and they're signaling the other boats that they're going down.
Supercharged engines in the Super V class, not quite as dependable as the naturally aspirated ones, but not so in the V76 Pier 57 Fountain. It's been a wild year for veteran throttleman Art Lilly.
This year has been, we've won 3 in a row. This is the 6th on the national circuit. And we're leading in the points, 40 points ahead. We have a good lead. So future looks good.
But right now, he finds himself trailing in a big way to the Ocean Spray Fountain.
Ocean Spray with a point to prove here this weekend. They've always considered themselves the fastest Super V in the world. They're out in front now. They felt that if they had one more shot at the Kilo course earlier this weekend, they would have regained their record. You see the helicopter doing everything it can to stay up with them. They are flying.
They're under the watchful eye of Reggie Fountain, who's in that helicopter right on top of them, seeing if he can learn anything from the ride of that boat. But I'll tell you what, that's about as perfect as you're going to get.
Yeah, you hang a boat out like that, you're going to get maximum speed every time. The crew in there, world class.
Looking at the F2 boats, the F21 team Sutphin now in 2nd place. Remember, he had that big battle going earlier. Now he's in 2nd. F271 Mastery Fountain is heading into turn 3 in 3rd place. So this is the battle for 2nd. Look at Mastery. Mastery decided to cut inside on the buoys to get that inside lane. Remember, we've been talking about the advantage of running tight on the buoys if you can, and it looks like they're going to try for it.
Veteran throttleman Doug Lewis in the Sutphin, but Brian Kirby keeps leaving the door wide open in the turns. He goes way out wide on the middle pins, and look at the difference that made. That brought that fountain right on up, the Mastery Fountain right on up on the Sutphin's hip, and frankly, if Brian Kirby makes one more mistake, he's going to lose 2nd place. And as we've seen here, the only reason he's in 2nd place is because he's making driving mistakes in each turn.
A little bit too far outside. We're looking now at the F278 close up, and look at where Twisted Styx has moved onto the inside. This is a battle for 9th place. This goes to show you not every battle is up front.
And as we can see in Twisted Styx, this boat's come a long way back from being sunken 2 days ago. In that cockpit, however, is a new crew member, veteran Bob Teague from California. Stepped in for Bob Eubank, who just couldn't make the race today. He's got an injured shoulder, and he's in no condition to be on the race course. But the boat is, and the boat's doing very well.
This is a real neck-and-neck battle. It is for 9th place, but I'll tell you what, the way they're going at it, you'd think it was for 1st place. It just really goes to prove again and again that, especially in the factory classes, you're going to get battles everywhere. And there goes Twisted Styx, and that's a great example of what we've been talking about on that inside lane.
Now think about it. You've got exactly the same horsepower and handling characteristics as the boat next to you. So everything you do in the turn is critical. It's virtually about inches. We saw the Treadwell go wide in the turn. We saw Twisted Styx once again take full advantage of it.
Here's the Renegade riding now in 7th place. F213, the number on the boat. This again a 3-man crew as we look on board with our Yanmar diesel onboard camera.
The water on the lens from that earlier encounter with a rooster tail. These boats are so tightly bunched that they're running in each other's wakes and rooster tails continually. Now looking forward, you can see what the drivers see. It's a lot more complicated down here. To the left, you've got the turn buoy. To the right, you've got a wake from another boat. You see the boat go over the wake and rock from side to side. That can get you all out of shape. You've got to be very careful in those turns. It's not as easy as it looks.
And it's not as easy back in the pack as it looks either. These boats in a battle for 12th place. We keep talking about how even the Factory 2 boats are, and this is a great example of it. We've got neck-to-neck racing. We've got more action. Stay with us. Rich Lures, as we look at the Sutphen boat, the F2-1, now riding in 2nd place.
Using a lot of trim right now, floating the bow, but the Velociraptor, he's got the hull for the conditions. A pad bottom V, this velocity is perfect for these calm conditions.
Rich, as we switch back over to Super V's, look what's happened. Citgo Super Guard went down with engine problems earlier. We don't know what happened to it, but they got back up on plane and they're back in the race.
And that's oh so important because they are in a race for the national championship. It's not just how they do in this race, it's how they do throughout the season, and they're still in that national championship point race.
And here's the boat riding in 2nd place, the V76, the Pier 57 Fountain. Art Lilly and Jeff Harris, they've had a very good run, but just not quite enough to catch the lead boat coming in for the checkered flag, the V1 Ocean Spray Fountain. Winner in Super V, Bruce Penhall and Dennis Segalis have got to be very happy. They came in with something to prove, and they proved it today. They beat the boat that set the world speed mark.
Ocean Spray, a frustrated team with something to prove today, beat the V76 Fountain in a very fast race. Meanwhile, in the Factory 2, Velociraptor was not to be headed as they ran around this course as if they were born here. Twisted Styx, a very respectable 9th after a very upside-down weekend.
So you can crack open the Ocean Spray and let the celebrating begin. Bruce Penhall and Dennis Segalis getting their first win since Lake Winnipesaukee, the 2nd race of the year.
The Ocean Spray Fountain worked great today. Dennis did a great job on the throttles. It was relatively smooth all day, and our strategy was to go out there and make him do all the work. We're going to set a pace and make him come to us. So and it worked out great. You know, we saw him every turn. He was with us there the first few laps, and we just kept picking it up slowly but surely.
In Factory 2, Velociraptor definitely had their best performance of the year and probably their best performance since that boat first hit the water.
First and foremost, we'd like to thank our families, because without this it wouldn't be possible, and Steve Stepp for building one hell of a boat as we saw today.
I'd like to thank all of our sponsors too. We've worked real hard at this to get to this point, and we're glad to be here. We'd like to also thank Reggie for putting on a great show here.
Great show.
As we look at the Super V National Class High Point standings, you can see Ocean Spray still has a bit of a mountain to climb to get up into 1st place behind Fountain. In the Pamlico River in Washington, Mountain Fleet is usually represented in Offshore B, but as you can take a look at a lineup, you'll see that the B57 Pier 57 Fountain is missing. That's the result of a violent wreck they suffered at the last race in Baltimore.
The Pier 57 fountain had been struggling all day in Baltimore to maintain a lead over the hard-charging Dramamine. The boat was misbehaving. As it came to the exit pin of the east turn in Baltimore Harbor, she caught a wave, she hooked involuntarily, and caused a tremendous crash between the two boats. It's lucky that nobody was killed in this incident. Tremendous damage to both boats. Both boats sunk on the spot. The drivers were rescued, but you can see the damage that occurred as lower units, engines, boats, everything got together and just tore up both of these hulls.
Look at the prop marks alongside the canopy. Boy, that was close.
The B-57 was totaled as a result of that, but the Dramamine was also damaged to the point where it couldn't make this start. That left Bruce Sperling without a hull. He contracted with Peter Meyer and Joe Scrow of the Instigator team to lease this boat for this race. Reggie Fountain lent them a pair of engines, and Peter Meyer is on the Styx throttling. Bruce Sperling will be driving in order to maintain his competitive edge in the points race. He must be on the circuit for this race to have any hope of winning the national championship.
Let's take a look back at some of the highlights from Offshore B, Offshore A, and Super Stock.
There's the start, and you can see the Tivoli goes out to the lead. Now, that Instigator boat we talked about is one of the fastest, if not the fastest, B-boats to come out of the Fountain factory. And that boat made a very good showing of itself early on in the race. The surprise boat, however, is the oldest of the Fountain boats out there, and that's the boat that you can see to the right off of the transom of Tivoli, the B-71 Shockwave. Now, the Tivoli is in the lead early on, but the Shockwave, a boat that was built in 1993 and originally called the Dragon Lady, and at that time it was throttled by Art Lilly, all of a sudden it gets by the Tivoli. This very heavy, old, first canopied boat out of the Fountain Works is doing very, very well. Surprising turn of speed. Another boat to watch, however, off of the Tivoli again. Here comes the Dramamine. Now, the Dramamine, as we said, is definitely the fastest hull coming out of Fountain. But Shockwave on this day in calm water with a heavy hull managed to get the lead and extend the lead.
Tivoli, as you can see, had a battle on the inside as well as on the outside. Jamie Coates, the owner and driver of that boat, doing a great job holding it in there. Here comes Instigator, and this was the boat that was leased out for this race, called Dramamine.
Now, the Instigator runs very much like the Dramamine, a great handling boat, but has better top end in most conditions, and it's a beautiful boat to look at.
Tivoli eventually breaking down. Bad luck for Jamie Coates and crew.
Look at the graphics on this Dramamine Instigator. What a lovely boat. I'm sure Reggie's very proud of this thing. You couldn't be more imaginative either in design or on graphics on a hull.
But graphics don't make speed, and Dramamine goes out of the race.
That left it wide open for the Shockwave. The old lady did very well. She took the B class running away.
Certainly not the old story of the turtle and the hare by any stretch of the imagination. Shockwave wins it, but Shockwave was in it from the start. Good speed, very dependable, and sometimes the old ladies do best.
Meanwhile, in the A class, the Nemshoff father and son team, Mark and Paul, they did what they do best, and that's led the race from wire to wire. This exotic hull out of Italy, designed by Fabio Buzzi, normally a great rough water boat, also shows a tremendous turn of speed in the calm seas. Now, Paul Nemshoff worked for Fountain up until a few weeks ago, and the boat is sponsored by Fountain.
Let's move to action in the Super Stock, where the S-113 sudden development would grab the lead early. They would hold onto it for much of the first half of the race, but about midway through again the rabbit died.
They had a sudden development. Their engines passed away, and that left the race to Power Broker and the S1 Citreshine. And Citreshine surprisingly was laying back, but all of a sudden they decided, well, now it's our turn to lead. Citreshine, a wide tunnel skater, plenty of top speed, calm water. You're not going to beat this boat in these conditions on this particular day. Power Broker had to watch helplessly from the outside as Citreshine just cruised down that straightaway.
And look what happened here. Power Broker trying to make up time, and watch him on this turn as he comes in. He kind of loses the back end just enough to stab the buoy.
Yeah, his pickle fork grabbed the buoy and he departed the area carrying it down the race course. But he got close again on Citreshine. Surprisingly good job battling for first place against a boat that admittedly in conditions like this should just be running away with the race. That wide tunnel gives Citreshine a good 5 miles an hour advantage in calm seas. The boat's been great in all waters, but on this particular day, whether they were a little off song in the motor compartment or not, I don't know. But it looked like Citreshine had more than they're accustomed to in terms of speed on a course like this.
And it looked as they approached the turn again like they pulled away just a little bit more, so they may be just holding them out there enough to keep that first place in tow, and they are doing a good job of it aboard Citreshine. Citreshine showing the way for yet another win in the Super Stock. And congratulations to that team. They did a great job getting that boat ready. They paced themselves through the calm water and did a tremendous job. Citre Shine, the S1, takes the win in the Super Stock division. Now we're not finished yet. We still have the Factory 1 boats coming out onto the course. We'll be back with more action from Washington, North Carolina in a moment. Little city that sits on the Pamlico River. By the way, notice the name on the side of the sheriff's patrol boat. How about that? It's a fountain. Rich Lawyer says more on some other marine applications of the fountain brand name in our performance report.
Over the years, offshore racing technology has found its way into the hands of both sides of the law. How does the government keep up with some of the latest developments in high-performance boating technology? Well, Reggie Fountain and I took a ride in a boat just like this one to find out.
Reggie, what's the purpose behind this boat?
For the Coast Guard to go catch the bad guys.
It's got a secret weapon and a 2-speed transmission.
Yes, it does, and that gives the diesel the kind of acceleration you need to have, makes it take off easy, and we can still prop it where they can run in the Coast Guard boats 73, 4, 5 miles an hour and respond to any emergency anywhere.
And you know, we got the Navy looking at it, and of course Customs is looking at it. We've sold a lot of boats to both of them before, and it's probably going to be a good boat for them too.
And they're all made right here, just like some of the Factory 1 boats that we're about to see in action. Let's take a look at our Factory 1 lineups.
Taylor Motorsports, Mountain Dew, Odie Fountain, they're all here. A large Factory 1 turnout for this Fountain Mercury Offshore race. This is a chance for the manufacturers to strut their stuff. Box stock showroom boats with single Mercury 500 HP power. An entry-level class, but oh so close in competition. These boats run between 70 and 75 miles an hour in competition, and that's plenty because these hulls are under 30 feet in length, and they're very, very tricky in the turns.
You can see how bunched up they were coming up on the start. The pace boat taking them down the front straightaway, and there the green flag flies. Now remember, they're all trying for the same point on turn number 1, just like any other kind of oval racing. Everybody tries to get that inside groove going into the first turn.
There are only inches separating these boats. As you can see, the boats in the center of your screen got very, very close together. And on the far side of the screen, the same thing is happening. They're not giving an inch, no quarter given. This is the Hollis Motorsports team. They won in Sarasota. We're on board with them. This is a team that is focused on the little details, and they're becoming more and more successful in getting just a little more speed than the rest of the fleet right now. Brian Hollis, a serious boat racer, only has 1 engine, but he's making the most of it. That 500 HP in there, he knows how to dial that boat in and make it sit up and sing.
Let's jump up front now to the top 3 early on. F-146 Freedom Offshore Racing in first, the F-104 Mountain Dew in second, and this boat, the F-106, the Odie, now riding in 3rd place between the wakes.
Stressed out, the driver is driving and throttling at the same time. He's making a challenge to come up in and pass the F-106 Odie.
We've got bow-to-bow racing all over the place. This is the battle for 3rd place. Odie on the outside, as we told you before. Now we jump up to 1st place, and look at this battle. Freedom on the outside, closest to you, battling Mountain Dew on the inside. Those boats have perfect water.
Now we know that the Mountain Dew Racing, the yellow boat on the inside, is the official kilo record holder at over 81 miles an hour. We also know that this is flat, calm water, and everybody is trimmed to the max. Imagine sitting in these boats. You can't get anything more out of your hull. You're sitting there and patiently waiting for your boat to show whether it's faster or slower than the guy next to you. And meanwhile, Odie on the outside, he realizes he's coming into a turn. He's trying to figure out a way to get to the inside lane, so he drives right through. The rooster tail is stressed out. Not a good move. Winds up in the dirty water caused by the other boats that passed through already. Stressed out's getting a little out of shape, but he's taking advantage of the fact that he can at least pick his line. Odie's now pinched in on the pins right now. He can't go anywhere but inside, jumping over wakes, losing tremendous ground. And in this class where everything is equal in terms of horsepower and top speed, that means a lot. Odie's now on the inside, better lined up for the next turn, and now he's in the clean water, stressed out's in some wakes. So it's all about where you are and picking your spots. And as we see, as they come out of the turn, stressed out got about 1 boat length out of all of that.
And they'll probably ride that way for a while because they've got pretty clean water. Meanwhile, up front, look at this battle for the lead. The yellow boat nearest to you is Mountain Dew. That set a world kilo speed record, but on the inside, that's Freedom Offshore Racing, and they are trying to take the lead. Boy, have they got a battle coming down for the checker.
Boy, that was a strategic error on the part of Mountain Dew. They just left too much space there. We'll be back in just a moment with the rest of this very exciting race.
Baja, speed changes you. Washington, North Carolina is the scene on the Pamlico River. Dick Crippen along with Rich Lurs as we look at the leader in the F1 class, Mountain Dew, on the inside position going into turn number 1.
Jim Arvis learned a lot from his previous laps. He realizes now he's got to keep the door absolutely shut because that Freedom Offshore is all over him like a cheap suit. He has got to make every turn count. Can't make a mistake now. Can't make any kind of a blunder. If he wants this race, he's got to concentrate, focus, and make that boat do exactly what he wants because he has no margin for error right now.
This is exactly what they envisioned in these factory classes. Close racing right down to the checkered flag, and we certainly are seeing it here in Washington, North Carolina today. There's the boat that was going to ride the rest of the way to the checkered flag, the Mountain Dew, the F104. As you can see, they've got it riding on the pad in the back, a great attitude on that boat, and they go on to take the win.
Mountain Dew first over Freedom Offshore, Odie Fountain, and Hollis Motorsports. Any of those four could have won this race. Extremely tight racing in the Factory 1 class.
Now this was the scene down near the docks, and what a weekend for Jim Arvis and Justin Halden, taking the win in Factory 1 after earlier setting a new kilo speed record.
It was a tough race out there today, though. We never got out of the throttle for an instant. If you got out, you were going behind. It was jump out front, stay out front. No room for any mistakes. That's the way we ran it, all out.
This boat is built so well it can turn on a dime. After the world's record-breaking event yesterday we performed, this is really the greatest weekend we've had in many, many moons. So here's to the Dew.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed bringing you the first ever Fountain Mercury Offshore race, and this looks like it'll certainly be a very popular stop on the APBA Tour in the future. Join us for more APBA action when we come to you north of the border in Toronto, Canada for the Ontario Place Offshore Challenge. Log on to www.speedvision.com or check your local listings for the time in your area. The APBA Baja Offshore Series is produced by Diamond P Sports in association with Speedvision. For Rich Lurs, I'm Dick Crippen. So long.